What you may not understand is that my star is elevated and I can't be regulated because my greatness has been negotiated. My path is my creation, and regardless of adulation, each step I take is filled with gratitude and elations. You see, this journey I am on, try to lower my greatness, there are no negotiations. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? This is your coach, Uncle Renz, and today is Easter Sunday. Many people, billions of people around the world are going to be celebrating and participating in rituals pertaining to the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Yeshua. And I don't have a problem with anybody who participates in that. For me, though, there's a different alchemical, hermetic message involved. And I want to take a few minutes of your time, if you don't mind, to explore that. Now, in the comments, I would love to hear your comments concerning it, and please subscribe to the page. That would be awesome. But there is a hermetic lesson, a alchemical message that we can learn, because if you're like me, you recognize that I'm not one. You don't have to be one of the blind men touching an elephant. If you don't know that story, let me give you a brief rundown of that story, and hopefully you listen to it this time, and then that way I don't have to explain it over and over again. All right, so the brief short version of that story is that you have 6 blind men in a village in India, and they're constantly arguing about what an elephant looks like. Now, they're blind, but they're constantly arguing about what an elephant looks like. And so the people of that town, they get so frustrated. They don't want to hear these guys. They're arguing all day, every day about what an elephant looks like, and they're all blind. They can't see. So one day the village arranged for them to take a trip to go and visit another town that has an elephant. So they go and they take this trip, and this guy leads them there. And when they get there, each one comes up and they touch the elephant. Well, one touched him on the body and said, it's like a wall. Another touches his leg and says, it's like a tree stump or a pillar. Another touches the tusk and says, he's sharp and is sharp and strong. Another touches the trunk and says it's like a snake. Another touches the ear and said it's like a carpet or a fan. And another touches his tail and said, we've been tricked. It's like a rope. And so their caretaker leaves them for a moment to prepare things, and they begin to argue again. You know, I told you that it was like a wall. I told you it was like a tree. I told you it was like a sharp object. I told you that it was like a leaf or a feather, or I mean, not a feather, a fan. And I told you that it was a snake, so they argued. And then nearby Raj, who was sleeping, he chastises them and tells them that each one of you has touched only a part of the elephant. Wisdom would teach you that you should take the sum total of all the parts, so that you will actually be able to come together to know what an elephant is. The sum total of all the parts will show you what truth is. I see that in all things. As a Hermetic alchemist, I see the parts of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hindu, the ancient religions of the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Dogons, the Native Americans, the Aztecs, the Mayans. I see the aspects and then bring them together in the whole part, the sum total. I tell you that so that you will understand where I'm coming from. I also tell you that so that if you have cause to want to tell me that call me names, know that you will not get a discussion from me. It won't happen, because I see you as a blind man touching merely the leg or the body or the trunk or the tusk or the ear or the tail. So if that is your perspective, you're more than welcome to remain there. But at some point, I hope that you would be able to at least respect others. Now, that also goes for those who are going to call everyone who participate in resurrection festivities as being stupid, slaves, and every other name that you can call them as well. At the end of the day, Uncle Renz is telling you it's about respect. And I know I've done some videos at the request of other people to break down different religions, and that's fine. And if you listen to those videos, at the end of them, at the end, it's about unity and love and the overarching message of each one. So let's just dive deep into this story of resurrection. Now, we can go as far back as talking about the solar aspect of the winter solstice and how the sun dies on the solar cross, and then for 3 days it doesn't move. It doesn't set southwardly anymore. It sets in the same spot, and then it begins to set north now. So to rise northwardly, and that is the resurrection. So what does now have to do with that? Well, what now has to do with that is that in ancient Egyptian, it is at the spring equinox of when the sun, the light, is finally looms longer than the darkness, where the day is longer than the night. So although the resurrection of the sun, the first victory, occurred December 25th, the overarching victory occurs now, when the days are longer. Now we can also look at this from the Greek perspective, that this is when Persephone finally returns home from being with Hades, and that's why the winter and everything's dead, and now Persephone, the daughter of, I believe, Hera, has now returned, the Mother Earth, and now she's returning. There's more to that if you really look at it, and I'm going to go ahead and say a little bit right now. Persephone's return, and Hera, Mother of Earth, now giving greenery, allowing the earth to now be reborn. This is why you have your egg and your rabbit. It's from the Greek and the Romans. These were the items, the totems, if you will, that represented Easter, all right, rebirth, fertility. So now Persephone has come back home. Hera is now happy. The sacred feminine, the divine goddess, has returned. Why is that important? Because in this resurrection story, in every one, I know I did a video breaking down about how each resurrection story is different. But when we look at it from a Hermetic alchemical idea aspect, what we see is that Mary Magdalene, what they could not get rid of is that Mary Magdalene shows up each time. And as you saw in other videos, I explained that Magdalene, that women of that day would not have had a last name nor title. So Mary Magdalene, woman, Mary, female, tower or fortress of power. The female energy has to show up, is back, is there, is present, in order for the Christ mind to occur, the alchemical marriage to happen, in order for you to elevate and open all your chakras. See, many people are talking about opening your chakras, opening your third eye, but what they miss is that if the alchemical marriage doesn't happen, then you don't open your third eye. You don't open your crown chakra. If you're looking at it from a tree of life perspective, you cannot go through the dyath and the knowledge, go through the abyss, and then, which is the darkness, going through the abyss is going through the darkness. You can't go through the darkness, the 3 days in the grave. You can't go through it and have understanding and wisdom to reach the crown. It just doesn't work. You have to have the sacred feminine when you go through the darkness, through the abyss. So Mary Magdalene's sacred feminine power had to be present for the Christ mind to occur. That's the allegorical understanding. Now, if you're a literalist, okay. All right, if you're a literalist, that's why I did the whole video on the story being different 4 times. But if you see it from the alchemical idea, but the Hermetic aspect of it is the law of gender, that in all creation, to create the spirit body, the spirit form, you must have male and female energy. This is what is lost in the Adam story, the Adam and Eve story. The female energy is lost. The female energy is tricked, or it falls. The serpent tail that Dante created is the fall of the female energy. The Hindi and the Buddhists talk about the raising of the Kundalini is the raising of that female energy. So Mary Magdalene had to be present. She's present in each story. So no matter how many rewrites, no matter how many times they tried to reconstruct it or reteach it, no matter when they tried to say she was a prostitute for a while and now they say she's not a prostitute, no matter how many times they tried to get rid of the sacred feminine, they could not get rid of it. And now that we are in the transitional phase of the age of from Pisces to Aquarius, which we will get to that because in the Matthew version he says, I will be with you to the end of the age. We are transitioning to the age of Aquarius, a more enlightened state, the more of the feminine power returning. So now we can see ourselves moving more into synchronicity with creation, with the creator, with divine energy, with source, with the marriage of understanding the power of dark energy and light energy. Not that one is evil and one is good, but that they are just energy of the source and you choose how to utilize them. Now there are some who only use light energies, where there are others who only use dark energy, but you can use either one for yourself. If you, before you go negative, oh, dark energy, evil, ooh. All right, everything comes out of the darkness. All creation comes out of the darkness. In the beginning, there was darkness, and out of that darkness came the light. Right? The vibration of the word spoken created the light. Right? So out of darkness. Right? Going through the abyss. In order to reach the crown, you have to go through the darkness. If you are a Star Wars fan, the Jedi, the greatest Jedi had to go through the abyss, through the darkness, the dark force, the force, the dark side of the force. In order for Luke to now become the greatest Jedi ever, you have to go through the dark side of the force. It's right there. So, not to get too far, I digress. In that story, we see that the female energy has to be present in order for that resurrection to occur. Now, once it occurs, the body is gone. You know, the Gospel of Thomas talks often about how we must live outside of the poverty of the flesh. And when you live outside of the poverty of the flesh, when you live based on the spirit based on your spirit, now you're living in connection with the Creator. I keep looking that way because there's a window right there. You keep living with the Creator. All right, and now you begin to understand what true manifestations are, what true creation is, because you can only create when male and female are present. You see, when you're only working with male energy, or only working with female energy, only working with light energy, only working with dark energy, when you're only working with one side of the polarity scale of energy of source, then you are merely manifesting what is already present. But when you learn to work with both male and female energy, now you can create, because the law of gender says that all creation comes from male or female energy, and then that creation starts from the law of mentalism, where all is mental. All is mental. So all is mental is the fact that the story is an allegory. The story is an allegory for you understanding how to come into that you go through this trial, this tribulation, you go through this shedding of the flesh in order for you to come to a mental state of creation, a mental state of understanding polarity, a mental state of understanding rhythm. The law of rhythm is evident within the story because the law of rhythm is shown how Yeshua had he swings to the left and swings to the right. You see, he couldn't always stay to the right, in his form of man, always staying to the right. You see, we stay to the right in our flesh, where we try to do good, we do the good works, we take care of one another, we feed one another, we do all these things in the flesh of the body to be to the right. But then in order for us to get a big push to the right, to move into the spirit realm, move into the Christ mind or the Buddha head, we have to first swing a little bit to the left so that we can momentum ourselves to the right at a further degree. But what people who are masters of this understand is that you manage your swing to the left. Too many people swing to the left, go so far to the left that they lose themselves. They find themselves in worse situations. You see this in finances. You see this with people who are of power as well. The ones who have power understand how they manage their swings. The ones who are not with power, they allow swings far to the left. They sit back and allow other people to create their swing. That goes into the law of cause and effect. Are you going to be a causal factor or an effect? You see, so Yeshua said, throughout his ministry, I'm not going to let the Sanhedrin have me now. I'm not going to let people who want to stone me have me now. Because that would be, them being the causal factor of my swing to the right. He had to wait for the right time to allow himself a swing to the left so that he can have a full swing to the right. See, you have to do that with yourself in every aspect of life. You have to manage your swings to the left to your swing to the right. Manage your losses, essentially, is what I'm saying. Learn how to manage your losses. If you look at, I'll give you an example of retail today. Many retail companies are filing for bankruptcy. Payless Shoes for one, filing bankruptcy. But they're managing this swing to the left so that they can swing to the right. Stores like companies like H.H. Greg's, there are many companies, they recognize what's going on with the internet and home purchasing. They see that Amazon has increased 53%. So they recognize they must manage their swing to the left of physical stores, or manage their swing to the left of revamping their stores for the quality of the experience, so that they can swing back fully to the right as cultures change to a online shopping culture, or as cultures change into people want to come and visit and have an experience. You see, as Uncle Ren's of Uncle Ren's Popcorn, I have managed the experience that my customers have so that I can manage my swing to the right. And what's another thing I recognize is that certain environments, certain cultures, certain groups financially are not going to be, they can't be part of my swing to the right yet, not as of yet. So I've had to manage my swings. When you manage your swings, then you will see yourself always to the right. You know, there was a perfect example of this today in a different format. I am a father of three. My children, they know how far they can push me. People like to say picking your battles. So I wouldn't fight every fight. And most of them weren't fights because of the way I was a heavy manager of my children early on when they were small. So, and I put in a lot of energy and effort for them to understand how they will function as a family and as individuals, so that as they grew, I didn't have to go back and forth. But today, I saw a family, small kids. I saw what the oldest daughter, who was probably 4 or 5 years old, felt that she could yell and argue at her father, and he would yell and argue back, or she could push him and fight against him and hit him and things like that, that they could run around and do whatever they wanted and ignore what they were told. They're not managing the swings of the left of these kids, so they'll find themselves always in this battle with their children, that their children will always have this disrespectful type attitude towards them, feeling as if they are part of parenthood with them, that they co-parent themselves with their parent. They're not managing the swing to the left with their kids. And so these are going to be the teenagers who just tell their parents whatever they want to tell them. And before some of y'all start saying that, oh, they must be white, or you thinking about that, because yes, in black culture, excuse me, white people, but in black culture, in my day, I'm 45, you only saw that with white families. But no, this is a black family. So I had to throw that in there because, hey, look, I'm your Uncle Ren's. I don't know what political correctness is. I just say what is. And that's a common thought in black American world, that you only see that with white families. And when I was growing up, you only saw that with white families. But now you see that across the board, where parents aren't managing the rhythm of their children. They're not managing them along the polarity scale. They're not spending the time now when they're small to establish attitudes, establish boundaries, establish respect for elders, establish ways of communicating. They're not participating. They're not putting in the heavy energy now so that they don't have to do it when they're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Like my kids are 21, they're 21, 17, and 16. And I don't have to do that with them because I put in that energy when they was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So you put that energy in early, you don't have to constantly keep doing it. You learn how to manage your finances early, you don't find yourself in huge swings when you're 40 and 50. You manage your relationships early, you don't have crazy relationship when you're 30, 40 years into the relationship. You manage manage your health early. You don't have to worry about so much sickness and this disease when you're older. So management of your swing on the polarity scale determines how much energy early, depending on how much energy you have to put towards it later, because then you get into the law of polarization where you have minor swings in the later stages and not these major swings. So Yeshua showed how he put in the energy early to avoid the severity of conflict and confrontation early, so that later he just had to do that swing and not do a full swing back and forth. You can do this in your own spirit mind. Now, I know I kind of went off a little bit on that one, but that's what Uncle Ren does. All right, that's what Uncle Ren does. Do. So, what else in the story is alchemical and hermetic? All right. So you have this story, and this about how he left. The body is no longer there. So you're absent of the body. And as many Christians grew up saying, when you're absent of the body, you're present with the Lord. And most of the time people understood that as when you die, then your next instance is you're in heaven. But the alchemical hermetic message is that when you are absent of the body, and you don't have to literally die to do this, but when you're absent of the body, when you are, like the Gospel of Thomas says, living based on the flesh, living based on the spirit and not the poverty of the flesh, then you are absent of the body, because the body is not in control, not the major factor. The just pure male energy is not the factor, but now you are living in a state of bliss of the alchemical marriage with both the male and female. You're now present with Source. You now understand Source. You have the ability of Source, because in the story, the Matthew version at least, he said that after this had happened, all power in the heaven and earth were in his hand. As I said, for me, the alchemical message, the hermetic message, that this is telling you what you can be, what you are. So once you have the alchemical marriage within yourself, all power of heaven and earth, the law of correspondence, as above, so below, all power of heaven and earth are now in your hands. All power to be able to create is now in your hands. All power to be able to manifest what is already present is in your hand. You see, during this today, the reason why I'm doing this message today is because I had several instances of deja vu. And if you heard some of my other videos, I told you that deja vu, for me, is the fact that time is non-existent, that this idea of linear time does not exist, because if you were on a totally different planet, time would be different. So time as we see it does not exist, that all things in creation, all things in the universe has already happened. They all happen at the same time, simultaneously. So deja vu is really just you being able to break the linear version of time, and now everything is happening instantly. And most of the time this is in your subconscious, it happens in your dream state. So I had like several occasions, even one before I made this video, of what we commonly call deja vu. But the difference is that in each occasion I was able to make subtle changes, because I knew what was going to happen next. You see, in one instance, we had to go and meet somebody at 2:30, so I knew that in the previous version that we left a little bit later because I was trying to watch the game, but I knew that if we did, we would be late, so I made sure we went ahead and left early. So a subtle change to get us there on time. All right, so when you begin to master this, then you begin to be able to change things that is more to your benefit, being more of a causal factor than the effect. So when you have the alchemical marriage, which is what the resurrection story represents to me, you have the alchemical marriage, you begin to be a co-creator with the Creator, understanding how to utilize the laws of the universe that were in place, the laws of cause and effect, the laws of manifestation and creation, the law of gender, the law of rhythm, the law of vibration. You begin to manifest all that. Oh, and by the way, the law of vibration. How did he get out of the cave? Well, all things vibrate. If you can match your vibrational pattern of your body to that of a stone, then you pass through the stone. Law of vibration, you can change it and then come back into another form, because evidently the body got out, but evidently that body had some food, had some drink, later on in the story. So it can manifest itself, it can vibrate itself into different patterns of physical, or, you know, match that of a rock and phase through the rock. Am I claiming that I can do that? No. No. I try. Don't get me wrong. I try. But I can't. Like, I try to levitate something every day. Y'all might think I'm crazy, but I try to levitate something every day. I'm gonna get it. One of these days, I believe that one day it's gonna happen. I need to stop saying one day. I need to know that today is the day. And that's the difference. It's the difference of being. I'm gonna do a whole video on that, about being. You have whatever philosophies you have in life. The reason why you're not receiving the benefit of those philosophies is because you're not living as a full being in the philosophy. But yeah. So that is, I know that was a little jumbled up. Wasn't as clear and concise as I would have liked it to be. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at this as a summary, here's the summary of it. When you merge the male and female energy, you have the alchemical marriage. When the alchemical marriage happens, you come into what is commonly called as the Christ mind or the Buddha head. When that occurs, you are able to work with Source, with God, with creation. You now understand the laws of the universe and the Creator in a more full state. You no longer are holding the legs of the Creator and calling him just a tree. You no longer are touching the body and calling the Creator, a wall. But you have took the sum of all parts, and you see the full elephant. You see the fullness of the Creator. When you see that fullness, now you can work with the laws of correspondence, the law of, well, what people think is the law of attraction, but they're missing the 7 Hermetic laws, which actually creates the fullness of the law of attraction. Most people are just working with the law of mentalism, where if you think it, it becomes created. But in truth, they are thinking it, and it just becomes manifested because it's already present. Without the law of gender, there is no creation. So you have to understand the law of gender, which is male and female energy, coming into the alchemical marriage. And then you can you can be the causal factor of the law of vibration, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of polarity. You can be the causal factor of each one of those, and then begin to create as well as manifest. So y'all have a great day. This has been your Uncle Renz, and I look forward to many more discussions. Gonna do some business talking conversations as well, as you know, this channel is going to be about a lot of different things. We're going to talk spiritualism, we're going to talk business, making money, family, relationships, just because I am not one thing. Like I told you guys in the previous video, the moment you label me, you negate me, and I cannot be negated by anybody, because my greatness is non-negotiable, and so is yours. So as we go through this process, and you see that my videos are of a wide nature, it is because I am of a wide nature. I cannot be contained. I can't be, like Bruce Lee said, I am like water. You put me in a teapot, I become the teapot. Water can drip or it can crash. Water can create or it can destroy. So, and be like water. I don't give in to the constructs of anything that, in his, actually speaking of Bruce Lee, in his book, the Jeet Kune Do, he talks about the fact that, you know, martial arts is beautiful when it's free form, free flowing, not when it's forced into a container of different styles, poses, stances, but it's free flowing. The Creator, creation, manifestation, you are free flowing, should not be contained, should not be forced into a structure. When you were born, you didn't know of these structures. You only knew Source, and you knew that everything would be provided to you. You knew everything was provided for you, that you didn't have to want for nothing. But that's for the next discussion, when we talk about embodiment and being in a state of being, because that is how we create. We talked about manifesting, we're going to talk about how we create. So y'all have a great day. Be blessed. Live your life as you choose to live it. Be yourself. Don't allow anybody else to choose. So free yourself to be yourself.